Hello and welcome to ThePrint. This is Akanksha Mishra, and today I'm sitting here in Tallinn, Estonia with Dr. Ott Velsberg, the former Chief Data Officer of the Estonian government, and currently he's with the Tony Blair Institute for Social Change. Thank you so much for being with us.
Great to be here.
Now, Dr. Velsberg, we're sitting in Tallinn right now, which is the most digitized capital in the world. And we're sitting here in the throes of one of Europe's biggest tech summits, Latitude 59. So let's talk digital and let's talk data. Estonia in 2024 became the world's first fully digital country. How did you do it? What was the process behind it? And what were some of the major steps that Estonia took to get there?
So one of the major obstacles that we had until we fully digitized services was actually data governance and trying to understand that it takes more than one organization to fully digitize different services. So for instance, we used to joke around that there are three things that we never digitize. So it was getting married, getting a divorce, and buying and selling real estate. So after the COVID stroke, things really quickly started to change. Of course, things that we typically took as we are never going to do in terms of going to notary to sell your or buy your apartment or house, it changed. And similarly, we started to work on the concept of personalized proactive services, whereby it was about integrating different government organizations and trying to solve these major issues. And one of them was getting married, initial proposal, then getting a divorce and so forth. And now the focus has grown more and more that we are trying to tangle together different services that people actually face and making the government interaction more easier. When I joined in 2018, many might not know, but Estonia was one of the last countries when it came to open data management. Similarly, we were one of the last countries in data-driven decision-making. Now, today, if you look, Estonia is one of the front runners. Most government databases back then didn't have an owner. We didn't have rules set out by the government which you need to follow when it comes to data quality or data accessibility and data findability and so forth. So it was a journey, building this responsibility within organizations, clearing clear expectations for each organization. In some cases, it was really hard. I remember in 2018, our open data portal, so reusable, free of charge data, we had less than 50 data sets for the whole of government. Today, over 8,000. So that was the situation. And I think what it took was a realization that it's not only about the services, it's also about the underlying governance and architecture that enables the next jump. So sometimes you need to step back, look at what is the situation in order to progress further.
That makes sense. You know, my next question was going to be, what is it about digital governance that Estonia understood that other countries have not understood yet? But I think you answered that question in that it's not just about the services, it's about the underlying governance. Now, can you tell me, a lot of countries around the world right now are in the process of digitizing. India is one of them. What, according to you, is a good example of a digital society? And not just example, what is a marker of a successful digital society? Is it a citizen getting access to everything on their phone? Is it seamless integration of all different government departments? What is success according to digital societies?
So, and this is my own personal view, but a successful digital society actually considers that there are different stakeholders with different needs, different accessibility requirements. So, for instance, if a person doesn't have the necessary ICT skills or prefers to use government services in an analog format, they should be able to do that.
Yeah.
If people have accessibility restrictions, for instance, hearing impairments or sight impairments, they should still be able to interact with the government on the same grounds as everyone else.
Yeah.
So it's about understanding that every individual is special, and we need to provide them, each of them, services in an according manner. Just to give you an example, during the COVID, we understood that not everyone has the same access to information.
Yeah.
As a result, it took us a couple of months. We developed real-time subtitling solution, which we then implemented in our national broadcasting. We provided the solution to private sectors, to theaters, and everyone else in order to ensure everyone who have hearing impairment gets access to the same information. The same thing after the Russian attack on Ukraine, we saw a surge in Ukrainian refugees. The result, we need to ensure that people who don't speak Estonian get access to the critical services as well. So Estonian Ukrainian translation, which integrated into the different service portals people are using. So it's really putting the person in the kind of the heart, empowering citizens to take more and more ownership over how the government can process their data, more consent-based data sharing. So, but all the technical kind of complexities of the state, you shouldn't tell and show that to the individual.
Yeah.
It's kind of irrelevant for them. For them, it's what are my obligations? What are my opportunities? What is my data that the government is processing? How the government actually ensures trust? That's what counts.
That makes sense. Now, shifting lenses a little bit, and let's look at India, for example, which is in the process of digitizing its society, of building digital infrastructure. In fact, Estonia and India have even collaborated on that. There are memorandum of understandings between several ministries. But there is a fundamental difference between building digital infrastructure for 1.3 million people versus 1.3 billion people. Can you tell us how India should tackle this challenge?
So even though kind of from an information system development perspective, the scope is different, the local needs are different, then what I think is replicable, and it doesn't matter in terms of the size of the country, is oftentimes how governance is approached. In terms of what are the requirements, for instance, data accessibility, what are the requirements on data quality assurance, how do we ensure human or citizen control?
Yeah.
Those principle level can be applicable in all the different states.
Yeah.
And similarly, the underlying approach, like digital first in how we approach things, is universally kind of applicable. So perhaps you cannot replicate one system from one country to another, but the underlying principles are there.
Yeah, that's true. Moving on, India is also digitizing at a time, India and many other countries around the world are digitizing at a time when we have the looming threat of AI, which is everywhere. Estonia is grappling with it, Europe, India, everyone is grappling with it. How does AI kind of change the model of digital governance?
So first of all, if we are, and I see countries moving ahead fast and citizens as well. So I'm just going to start from the Estonian perspective and then get how it will affect the government. So first of all, if you look at the uptake of AI in Estonia, over half of Estonians use AI, over 80% of young people use AI. In the government, we see adoption rate between 37 to 50%, depending on the sector. Now, what citizens are doing are building more and more agents to interact with the government.
Yeah.
So even government to citizen interaction or government to business interaction is going more agentic. What it means is also government is implementing heavily. We have over 50% adoption in Estonia. When I started out, we had only 2 use cases within the whole of Estonia, what we can call AI today.
Yeah.
But what the change is, organizations are changing as a result. And I'm just going to give you an example. Let's take unemployment agency.
Yeah.
So on the manual level, we give recommendations based on gut feeling, on some guidelines. The next step that we started to work with unemployment agency was, can we predict what is the best job for a person? Can we predict what type of training a person needs? Can we then predict What is the likelihood that a person finds a job? If they become unemployed, if they are long-term unemployed, and so forth. So we are already moving towards kind of a more intelligent government. Now the work is in progress of we're starting to understand that every individual is different.
Yeah.
As a result, some actually need government intervention, others don't.
Yeah.
And if we already know that when people are likely to lose jobs, what are the factors contributed to that?
Yeah.
Can we intervene beforehand? So moving from unemployment agency to employment agency, preventing people of losing job altogether. And the same thing, for instance, in health, we talk about health board, so ensuring people are healthy instead of talking about curing health. So that's kind of we are moving more and more predictive and more personalized in that. And from the government architecture side, how do we actually ensure sovereignty? How do we actually ensure control? Human dispute right. Similarly, on an architectural level, how can we actually ensure that if agents are taking control over different factors, that there is some auditability in place and so forth. So it will bring changes in the way government works.
So getting back, one of the differences that we have in between how Estonia went about digitizing its society versus how India is doing it, for example, is a lot of India's digitalization is government driven. Estonia had a public-private partnership. Can you tell us firstly what led to that model in Estonia and how the different models can result in different forms of protection for citizens' data and even different digital infrastructures?
Yeah. So I think one of the most important things is if there is government-private sector collaboration, then oftentimes private sector can provide services and develop services that otherwise you would contribute and expect the government to provide. Government can ensure that data sharing is trusted, that there is assurance process, that the overall kind of compliance and expectations are met, but private sector can develop services such as in healthcare or in transportation. So this will, in the end, help the government to save costs, but also make development and implementation much more cost effective. Just to give you an example, we developed consent service. So we started to develop in 2020, and it gives individuals the right to decide who, for what reason, can access their government health data. Now, consent service is today used, for instance, when you want to have a loan from a bank. You give a consent, your information on your employment, on your salary, and so forth is shared with the bank. They will, in most cases, give you an answer in a couple of minutes of time. Yes, you will get a loan, and instead of filling in all the different forms, which take a lot of time, it will take you literally a few minutes. The same thing in healthcare. You can give a consent, and the private sector company can provide you additional services based on government health data. Why we started this kind of a government-private sector collaboration was, again, a necessity. Government end, we didn't have too much finance. We still don't have, small country. So doing in this collaborative manner gives a potential for scale. Same solution developed for the government can be provided to other organizations as well in other countries and so forth.
Okay. Final question. India is, as I said, on its process to digitalize, and it's doing it for a society that is vast, expansive, heterogeneous. What are some key lessons that it should keep in mind, not just from Estonia, but from the world in general, to ensure a successful digital governance system?
So I think one thing that I've seen in many countries is oftentimes we make things more complex than they have to be. And especially in the government. We try to solve everything, but what my university professor used to tell me, keep it simple. So oftentimes start small, test out. If things don't work, scrap it, adjust. So learning to kind of adapt based on the situation, trying to find the minimum scope that actually brings users values. In many cases, for instance, countries that have been working on AI, we try to use AI to solve everything, but actually not understanding what are the problems or challenges that needs addressing. So it all goes back to the user or service design, and then you can use actually technology to solve the problems that you have. Similarly, if you take, for instance, right now a very hot topic is AI sovereignty, then why are you actually kind of after that? For Estonia, it has always been language and cultural kind of representation. Small country, major companies are not interested in investing in Estonian, but our objective is that you can use Estonian in future as well. How do you ensure that all the different models represent our culture, our way of thinking? So have a clear objective and start small. Yeah. Most of the initiatives that I've been working on in Estonia, over 160 different AI projects, they have had a really concrete focus, concrete measurable impact, and if things don't work out, start again.
That was very sage words of wisdom and very well said. I think that's a great note to end our interview on. Thank you so much, Dr. Velsberg, for being with us.
Thank you.